Morning, everyone. Let's move that a bit closer. It is 11 o'clock. Welcome to Cabinet. Remember, this is broadcast live via the website and archived so you can view it afterwards. Normal stuff, microphones on to speak and then off when you're done. Apologies for absence. We've got Richard Shepherd, who's away for the weekend on his one-year-old grandson's birthday. Hope he enjoys that. Minutes, they're not 3 to 10. I'll move them. From 25th of October, Deborah?
I'll second them.
All in favour? Thank you very much. Urgent items. I've agreed to take one urgent item on devolution. This will be taken as agenda item on the 9 on the agenda, sorry. Declarations of interest? None. Annual delivery and performance compendium, 9 to 110. This is to note the overall progress in delivering the Council's new strategic priorities and, of course, the financial pressures and risks which are facing us. It also suggests that the Council continue to press its case for fairer funding, which we should do. We've got Andy here, Senior Development Business Partner, to present the report. Andy, welcome to your annual year, A Day in the Sun. Over to you.
Thank you, Leader. Item 4 presents the draft County Council Annual Delivery Report and Performance Compendium for 2022, and it sets out the Council's progress and performance over the past year or so. The delivery report itself is in a shorter, more summarised format this year, picking up comments from members last year and hoping to address those. And so it focuses largely on delivery against the outcomes set out in the Council's strategic plan to 2026, and there's much more supporting information behind this with other delivery areas as well. Despite being shorter and more summarised this year, I don't think, and I certainly hope it doesn't take away from the highlighting the many significant pieces of work and achievements delivered over the past year. The covering report itself, particularly within paragraph 19, sets out some of those examples of delivery across the theme areas. Significant work on the clean and green outcome area, including the new net zero strategy and action plan, electric vehicle charging rollout, energy efficiency measures, green homes and environment grants, and significant tree planting. The economy priority, for example, has seen investment in development sites, progress on plans for the new Freeport and to extend the Airfield Business Park, support to businesses and guidance through the Business Hub, place marketing activity, and Phase 3 broadband rollout. Skills work examples includes the new Multiply programme, Kickstart work placements, supporting apprentices, and the Work and Skills Leicestershire project. The Transport Service has also continued to deliver on major programmes of projects, including £120 million of developer money secured and schemes underpinning significant homes delivery, successful bids to upgrade traffic lights and investment in highways maintenance. Bus service improvement plans have also progressed, new accessible minibuses, the Fox Connect trial, and also funding secured for cycling and walking plans. Improved opportunities has had a particularly high priority this year, including to provide support to help with the cost of living crisis with a new supporting delivery group and action plan. The Household Support Fund has also been used to target vulnerable families with help with food and fuel and supporting free meals and summer activities. Other work is included on the first 1001 days of life and child health, including the Healthy Tots programme, school improvement work, and investment in new school places and special educational needs provision. Work through the Safe and Well theme includes the new community safety strategy, the action plan, responding to child criminal exploitation, improving child protection, and a new approach to serious violence. A new public health strategy has also been developed with continuing steps to prevent the spread of COVID, new workplace health offer, and healthy workplace and healthy weight strategies. Adult social care work, a few examples, includes the new supported living scheme for people with mental health support needs, launching the new care technology service, investing in residential accommodation, including the new Ashby Court, and in implementing the Better Care Fund and supporting initiatives. And finally, the strong communities area. A strong area of work over recent years has also been maintained with the new community strategy, work to support the significant numbers of Ukrainian refugees, SHI grants for voluntary groups, Equalities Work Programme, community libraries, and various improvements to heritage attractions and associated awards. So just a quick whiz through some of the examples there of really good delivery this year and progress towards the outcomes, and credit to all the members, service heads and officers involved in that sort of strong delivery this year. In terms of the performance data, in relation to the benchmark exercise for 2021, that showed Leicestershire as the third best performing county, just behind Wiltshire and Oxfordshire. Though it is worth noting that both of those counties are quite significantly better funded than Leicestershire in the core spending power league tables. In relation to 2021-22, the impact of the COVID pandemic and the economic situation has continued to be felt, affecting service demand and outcomes in a range of areas, with 92 actually improving, but 72 areas worsening. And some switch around COVID, those areas that are doing quite well around traffic congestion and the environment, moving back more towards trend. So those areas sort of worsening. But actually quite hard to unpick some of that data, some of the data lag, and some of the demand areas are really still to fully settle as a result of the impact of the pandemic. So we are continuing to monitor the overall performance position trends very closely. The compendium does also include the core spending power table, which continues to highlight Leicestershire as the lowest funded county and the third lowest funded authority, with the London authorities particularly prevalent towards the top of that core spending power table. And also the significant differentials, even with those in the lower or middle of the table, and the pressures that is placing on service funding, service reductions and local council tax rates. And the compendium also goes on to highlight the council's key organisational risks, and paragraph 26 sets out those areas for continued delivery focus. The report was considered by the Scrutiny Commission on the 9th of November, and the Commission generally welcomed the more streamlined and summarised approach, with some detailed points set out in paragraphs 28 to 30. The recommendations the Cabinet set out in paragraph 3 of the report. Thank you, Chair. I'm happy to answer any particular questions.
Excellent, Andy. I'm going to go to Lee first.
Thanks, Leader. Can I just say it's a good and full report, Andy, as always. I think it's appreciated. It's a shorter format, so it was good that feedback was taken on board. To me, the section 26, the areas for continued focus, this is what we've delivered so far. I mean, I refer many people to this document if they want to know what we do as a county council, because it really is a full and useful reference document. But section 26 talks about our areas for continued focus, so what we're still looking to do. And in summary, continue to implement the new strategic plan, the MTFS, the updated strategic climate change programme, including digital delivery and workplace strategy, taking forward actions arising from the climate emergency declaration, the environment strategy and the net zero commitment, which is important to us, continuing to maintain the fair funding campaign, progressing and continuing delivery of improvements to support vulnerable children and families and meet demand pressures on children's social care and SEND, maintaining the good progress on the health and care integration, implementing a new public health and wellbeing strategy and public health preventative measures, and also an effective government solution to the challenges we face in adult social care, implementing economic growth, skills and plans and measures, continuing partnership work with the Police and Crime Commissioner to pursue targeted crime areas such as domestic violence, and maintaining the focus, importantly, on supporting the workforce health and wellbeing and tackling recruitment and retention issues. To me, the compendium, which started on page 59, you start off by your definition of the low funding remains the council's Achilles heel. I'm sure it's fair to say that the leader has used many other descriptors regarding our funding position across the last 12 months. We've been very vocal on the funding pressures, and I think really the report, starting on page 61, covers all that we're doing and the reasons why. Can I thank officers and certainly Andy, and I'm happy to propose the recommendations in the report as section 3 on page 9.
Thank you. I'll formally second. I mean, what it shows, Andy, is we're doing good work with bad money, as usual. So, you know, we are where we are with that. But also in 3, we need to continue to press the case for a fair funding settlement. If we can do this amount of good with that amount of bad money, just imagine what we could do if we are even medium funded, let alone badly funded. If we can aspire to the middle, if we're honest. I've got Deborah first.
I think you've just took the words out of my mouth. I was going to say, you know, amazing what we can do with the funding that we've got, and it's fantastic that this document proves what we can do. I'm exactly the same. Imagine what we could do if we were properly funded. So we need to continue to push to get good funding, because you know there's so much more we can do for our residents if we're properly funded. So yep, we will continue.
Thank you, Deborah. Blake?
Yeah, thanks, Leader. I just wanted to say, as the lead member for the Environment and Green Agenda here, one of the biggest achievements that actually hasn't been printed or published in the report, which is fantastic and formatted extremely well, is that this council has managed to embed, in spite of all of the financial challenges, etc., they've embedded this clean agenda at the heart of the corporate agenda. I think that's an achievement that we should be extremely proud of, because there's many organisations out there that are still struggling to do that in spite of their best efforts. So congratulations to the council as a whole and the officer team that has made that happen. We can only build from here on in, but the report, especially under Clean and Green, makes really, really good reading, and I'm very proud to support it.
Okay, so we've now the speaker. So it was moved by myself and seconded by Deborah. And remember, this goes on to, by Lee. Oh, no, sorry, wrong way around. Moved by Lee, seconded by me. I'm sorry, Lee. And remember, this goes to full council as well. So all in favour, please show. Thank you very much. Thank you, Andy. Agenda item 5, managing the risk relating to delivery of infrastructure to support growth, pages 111 to 122. And obviously this notes the financial implications and associated risks to the council of delivering the growth in the current financial climate. So we've got Tom Pennell, Assistant Chief, will present it, and then it's me. Tom.
Thank you, Leader. Yes, the report sets out the financial implications for the Council of delivering sustainable growth and proposes a new approach in order to manage the financial risks which the Council faces. The financial challenges themselves are summarised in paragraph 4, where it's noted that there's a gap of £29 million anticipated in the revenue budget for 23-24, rising to 135 million by 26-27, and also noted that the capital funding shortfall faced by the council of £134 million, which was reported to Cabinet 2 months ago, has risen by a further £45 million due to additional inflation pressures. Paragraph 26 sets out the demographic pressures that underpin growth, including an anticipated 23% increase in the county's population by 2043, higher than the East Midlands or England averages, and also noting that growth is higher among those aged over 65, which brings challenges associated with an ageing population, including the need for specialist homes. How this growth is played out through the planning system, in particular through the provision of homes, is summarised in paragraphs 27 to 28, and the council is working with district councils and Leicester City Council to ensure that the required additional 91,400 homes across Leicester and Leicestershire is delivered through local plans and supported by a statement of common ground. Paragraphs 30 to 37 explain the link between growth and infrastructure and focus on the implications for that infrastructure which the council is responsible for delivering, in particular roads and schools. And in those paragraphs, it's noted that funding for infrastructure comes principally from developer contributions set in Section 106 agreements. The provision of transport infrastructure, schools and adult social care accommodation could cost between £500 million and £1.5 billion over the next 25 years. But there's other demands on the available funding, including affordable housing and net zero and biodiversity measures, and also scheme viability is under further pressure from rising material and labour costs. It's also noted that forward funding by the council has helped deliver infrastructure, but that does bring significant funding uncertainties, pressures and risks for the council. Subsequent sections of the report set out more detail around the risks and implications for education infrastructure and highways infrastructure. In order to respond to these circumstances and manage the risks, a new approach for the council is proposed, and these are set out in summary at paragraphs 10 to 12 and in full at paragraphs 51 to 63. In paragraphs 51 to 54, new arrangements are proposed for managing existing capital highway infrastructure projects, and those are listed in the appendix. And the focus here is on recovering forward funding provided by the council with the support of the local planning authorities, and that the costs of delivering infrastructure are regularly reviewed and updated, including to take full account of inflation. Paragraph 55 sets out the proposed approach to managing future projects. And at this point, I should point out that the final 5 words of the first bullet of paragraph 55 should have been deleted from the report, and the wording should end at infrastructure. The proposed approach set out in that paragraph includes that the full cost of the council's statutory infrastructure projects should be recovered, and that sufficient contributions need to be secured before the council will fund scheme delivery. And also a recognition that prioritisation of education contributions and the delivery of school places, a statutory duty for the council, may require a delay in delivering or a decision not to deliver highways infrastructure, and that could lead to a temporary or permanent deterioration of conditions. However, that wouldn't apply to infrastructure improvements required to address severe safety impacts. Paragraphs 56 to 59 comment on the council's work with district councils on local plans, and the new approach proposes that district councils be encouraged to engage with the county council at an early stage, including to share key information. And it's also proposed that the council formally request that local plans identify forward funding needs for the schemes listed in the appendix and make provision as appropriate for contribution strategies and supplementary planning documents to help recover costs, manage financial risk and increase scheme viability. And paragraph 60 to 63 set out further proposed measures to manage financial risk, including the council requesting updated costs from contractors and developers and reviewing those regularly. The recommendations are as on the order paper and include that the council should adopt the new approach I've just summarised and take specific steps to communicate this to local planning authorities, developers and landowners.
Thank you, Tom. I'll formally move the recommendations. And although this is a new approach, as we call it, when you read the report and hear the numbers and hear the challenges that we've got, Tom, this is the only approach, in my view, that we can possibly adopt. We're talking massive numbers in terms of cost. We're talking massive challenges in terms of responsibilities. We're talking a massive increase in the number of houses, and we're talking about massive increases in business growth. And unless we adopt this new approach, I mean, we could stay with the old approach, but nothing would ever get funded anyway. So it's best to have the new approach as it's the only approach. So local planning authorities know our problems, know the costs, and know where we're coming from, and they must endeavour to make sure these huge developments wash their own faces, and that we will provide the infrastructure as and when we've got the money in from the massive growth. The days of when we've only just by the skin of our teeth managed to fund the Melton Mowbray distributor road, and unfortunately that will be the last one which we can fund in that way. New stuff will have to fund itself after we get the money in. And I also like the way, and Deborah will probably mention it, that we are prioritising contributions towards education, because that is what must come first. So it is a new approach. It is the only approach that we can feasibly adopt, and I'm happy, well, not happy, but I'm willing to move the recommendations, and I'm going to Lee first, and then I've got Deborah. Lee.
Thanks, Leader. I think the County Council has been very open with the challenges that we face regarding funding our infrastructure. I mean, the County Council wants to support county growth, and certainly I fully support and endorse this proactive way forward, and I'm happy to second.
Thank you, Deborah.
Thank you, Leader. Yeah, I was just going to mention the schools. The schools have to take priorities. It's a statutory duty for us to provide school places, and we're struggling at the moment to have school places in the areas where we've got housing and where parents want to send their children. So it's really important that we prioritise schools and get school places in the right areas. But like the lead said, we've got no option but to go down this route. It is going to affect all the residents across the county with highways issues, because we will have more congestion. But we've got to take a hard line on this due to our current financial situation, and we just cannot afford to forward fund these projects without further government help. So it's the only line we can take.
Okay, I have no other speakers, Tom, so it's been moved by myself and seconded by Deborah. Can I have a show of hands in favour, please? It's the wrong way round again, Tom, but It's passed anyway. Okay, so the next one is Leicester and Leicestershire and Rutland Carers Strategy, pages 123 to 162. It shows the outcome of the consultation exercise on the strategy and seeks approval for the revised strategy. John's the Director of Adults and Communities, and then after John, I'll go to you, Christine. John, morning.
Morning, thank you. So Cabinet are asked to approve the latest Leicestershire and Rutland Carers Strategy, which is essentially a refresh of the previous strategy, recognising, valuing and supporting carers, that was developed in 2018. The strategy defines a carer as anyone who supports and cares unpaid for a family member or friend living with a disability, long-term illness, substance misuse or mental health need, and who would not be able to manage without their help. It's estimated there are over 100,000 carers across Leicestershire and Rutland, including 2,000 young carers. The priorities in the strategy were built on feedback from carers on the priorities that were developed as part of the 2018 to 21 strategy, and they're outlined in paragraph 17 of today's report. A larger engagement exercise was undertaken during the summer of 2021, where carers continued to emphasise and identify with those priorities, and therefore those priorities have been left largely unchanged in the new strategy, with the exception of one area, which was around technology, where carers wanted to have a slightly different emphasis, and we've changed that one. That's the caring with confidence priority, which has now been reflected in the new strategy. So each partner organisation will be responsible for the individual action plans to support the implementation of the strategic objectives. The Leicestershire plan was implemented across the last 3 years, and the outcomes from that implementation are included in paragraph 21 to 22, which show some of the achievements that have been delivered over that period. However, there are some ongoing challenges, and at paragraph 23, those challenges are outlined as being the continue to raise awareness of issues faced by carers, particularly the early identification of carers, ensuring that information is updated regularly and is accessible for carers, and ensuring that carers are involved in service planning and design. So those priorities have also been included within the new action plan for Leicestershire, which is appended to this report. Following that engagement in 2021, a full public consultation was undertaken in the summer of 22, and the outcomes of that consultation are included in the report today. You can see at paragraph 25 and 26 a number of organisations, individuals that were included in the consultation, and a number of events that were held. The outcome of the consultation identified a number of other priorities where residents felt that there should be recognition within the strategy. That was that carers feel valued and involved, that carers are fully informed, that carers can access the right support at the right time, particularly that carers have a life alongside caring responsibilities, and specifically supporting young carers. We've included some of the general comments that were reflected in the consultation at paragraph 33 in the report, and we've also included comments from the Adults and Communities Overview and Scrutiny Committee, who received the report on the 5th of September. And those comments are included at paragraphs 41 through to 44. So subject to Cabinet's approval, it's intended to launch the strategy in December. And I'll leave it there. Thank you.
Very good, John. Christine.
Thank you, Leader. Yes, I think it's a very good report, and it does show that we do listen to when we go out and ask for feedback, and we've taken on board everything that people have said. And as I said, we do value our carers very, very much. And without the carers, a lot of the work couldn't be done. So as I say, I think the report is very, very full and thorough. And so I'm happy to propose the recommendations.
Thank you, Christine. Pam?
Thank you. I think the people that are carers and have been carers for a while really appreciated the consultation, John, because I think they felt that they were being listened to and they were being heard. And you've obviously taken some of those points on board, which I believe are very important. Carers are an important part of our community because, as we all know, without them, we would be in a much more difficult situation than we are now, and people would not be looked after correctly. So I have no hesitation in seconding this proposal.
Thank you, Pam. I've got Deborah.
Thank you, Leader. Good to see that young carers were included within the consultation. They're a really hard to reach group, and we need to ensure we work hard to listen to their voice. We have a very large cohort of young carers across the county, and many of young carers don't even realise that they're young carers. They don't identify as a young carer. So we need to work really hard, and especially something my department does in identifying young carers early, because they do a lot of work out there supporting close family members.
Yeah, I thought 100,000 was a surprising figure when you think there's only 650,000 total in the county and 100,000 of them are carers, and 3,000, as you referred to, young carers. I just wondered, Deborah probably knows the answer, but how, when you recall somebody a young carer, how young do they start being a carer?
In relation to that particular figure, those figures come from the latest census data that we've just received. I think they are 0 to 15 figures.
Like I said, I don't think a lot of young people that I talk to don't realise that they're young carers. They just help with the housework, they help with shopping, and they don't see themselves as young carers. They just see that as their normal. They're brought up like that, and that. But you know, we do try and identify them. A lot of the services across the county do identify them, but they don't realise they're young carers. So there's probably a lot more out there that we don't know about. Surprising
numbers, John. Anyway, it's been moved by, I'll try and get this right, by Christine and seconded by Pam, and everybody welcomes it. All in favour, please show. Thank you, John. Transfer of a section of the Ashby Canal, Transport and Works Order 163 to 166. It is what it is. We've got Joe Gill, Assistant Director of Environment and Transport, and Lauren, Director of Law and Government, to present this report. And it seems to me like it's taking us longer to transfer it than it took to build it. But over to you, Joe.
Thank you, Leader. I wouldn't want you to think we've actually built it yet. We're still ongoing. Thank you. So allowing for anything that the Director of Law and Governance may want to add, as it's a joint report. The purpose today is to set out for Cabinet the latest stage that's required in this ongoing process with government, linked to a joint ambition with the Ashby Canal Association to eventually enable them to receive transferred powers from ourselves to enable them to take on the future restoration of a specific section of the Ashby Canal. And I think it's fair to say, whilst we're still ongoing in that process and we've brought previous items to Cabinet, the recommendations as set out in this report address a key next step on advice that we've received from DEFRA, namely to ask Cabinet to approve recommending to County Council that an application be made to the Secretary of State for Environment to promote an order under the Transport and Works Act to transfer powers that we had as a county council granted to us back in 2005 on to the ACA. There is further detail for Cabinet in Part B of the report. And if I may, all I was going to add for Cabinet information is that officers did receive further advice from government in the period since this report was published, but it doesn't affect the recommendations as set out under point 2. But Lauren may want to add a little bit in relation to process. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Leader. And simply to add that colleagues in legal services and in Joe's directorate are working closely with officers from DEFRA and reps from the Canal Association to progress the outstanding points. That includes obviously the council decision to apply for or promote the order. We've got to review a waiver that's been granted and make sure that's still appropriate. There's a little bit of work still to do on some of the land transfers for small parcels of land not already completed, some further consultation and provision of some financial information by the Canal Association. And finally, some minor publicity requirements. All of those steps are required to before the statutory instrument can be made. When made, though, that will, as been outlined, transfer part of the canal extension as set out, and the order covers everything required to protect the County Council's position going forward. Thank you, Leader. Nothing else I can add to that.
Very good. Thank you, Blake. This is one of yours.
It is. And again, I want to stress, I wouldn't want any member of this council to think that in any part we were responsible for, if you like, the delay in the transfer. As you can see from the report, we've even supported it with a 1.1 million funding offer in 2021 for the maintenance of the canal. You've got the Ashby Association, Canal Association, that want to receive the transfer. We want to deliver the transfer, but unfortunately government bureaucracy dictates that we have to go through this process. So this is a process we've got to go through. Hopefully we can see light at the end of the tunnel, but for that reason we should all support the motion on the order paper.
I agree. Ozzy.
Thank you, Leader. I formally second it and agree with Blake's statement.
Okay, no other speakers. So it was moved by Blake and seconded by Ozzy. All in favour? Good, thank you. 8 items referred from over in scrutiny. There are none. And then now we've got 9, which is the urgent item, and the Chief's going to address us on it, and it's in relation to devolution. Chief.
Thank you, Leader. This feels like a saga, although not as long as the Ashby Canal, but it has been running now for over 16 months. And although members will be familiar with the history of a county deal for Leicestershire, I'll just briefly recap. We submitted a bid in September 2021, which took into account advice to be ambitious and to accept an elected mayor as a quid pro quo for a good deal. That was positively received by the government in several discussions. But nobody told us until the Levelling Up White Paper was published in February this year that the criteria known as the Functional Economic Area, FEA, ruled out our ambitious bid. Leicestershire on its own was not regarded as an FEA. An FEA would mean Leicester and Leicestershire, Leicester, Leicestershire and Rutland, or the 6 Cs, the 3 counties and the 3 cities of Derby, Leicester and Nottingham. Paragraph 9 of the report sets out what we tried unsuccessfully to salvage from the bid, and we did try hard, but we met with resistance from government. Paragraph 14 sets out the current position as of now, after a long delayed meeting with the civil servants was held last week. I'll just pick out the only option for LLR, which the government will consider, is a non-mayoral combined county authority level 2 deal. And you may put, Leader, in slightly more populist language what you think that means. There is a possibility of a combined transport authority being set up for LLR under existing legislation, and the timescale for any deal for LLR is simply unknown. It was said to be a matter for the new deal ministerial team. Excuse me. That meeting also informed us that the County Council, if it wishes, can respond to the current consultation on the proposed deal for D2N2. Previously, we hadn't thought that was possible, and so that's one reason why this is being taken today as an urgent report. For the reasons mentioned in the report, the misleading description this is a deal for the East Midlands, concern that better options for regional devolution are not being explored, and the desirability of getting a regional devolution deal right from the beginning, the recommendation is for the County Council to respond to the consultation. The report also notes that the promoters of the D2N2 deal have suggested that other areas could join it at a later date. As paragraph 22 notes, that would only be after a mayor had been elected, structures had been established, funding allocations determined, and a regional headquarters, no doubt in Nottingham, had been set up. That does not seem to me to be very attractive, but it would be a matter for the council to decide if an option were ever to be considered in due course. The full recommendations are on the order paper, and they enable the County Council's position to be put on the record. Thank you.
Thank you. It is important that we place this on the record so everybody understands how exasperating, and that's a fairly mild word, how exasperating it's been, the whole process. Before I move stuff, I'm going to go to Deborah first.
Thank you. I think the term for a level 2 dear non-mayoral combined county authority is described as thin gruel, and I think we need to put the current situation on record and just be clear that any county deal, let alone a level 2, is not going to solve our core funding issues. It will only give us more control over what we do locally, which is really important, I think, to us. I think the problem I struggle with most at the minute is hard to digest the term devolution for the East Midlands when Leicestershire isn't included, and I think that's a key issue that's been overlooked by government and locally as well. So I have read through the documents with the East Midlands devolution public consultation toolkit, and I think it's quite clear on there. I think it's worth the link on in paragraph 23 is a interesting read. I think I'll leave it there, but I would recommend all cabinet to take a look at that link and read through it as to what devolution for the East Midlands is looking like at the moment. But without Leicestershire in it, I don't see how it progresses to enhance anything for any of the residents within the East Midlands. But I think I'll leave it there, Leader.
Indeed, I mean, the expression thin gruel was one I had previously type of used, but it was actually mentioned on a call by a senior civil servant that a level 2 deal is all we can have. There is nothing that they would consider adding to it. And even he used the expression very thin gruel. So the only reason I think we're carrying on with it, because it is taking thousands of hours of officer time and my time and everybody else's time battling with different levels of government, different secretaries of state in government, different members of parliament, is I'm advised that it is better than nothing. Well, it's only just better than nothing, but if we can at least get it done, if there is a change in policy from a minister or whatever, at least we've got one on the table where they can give some future more powers to. But at the moment, thin gruel is what it is. Having said that, I'm happy to move the motion on the order paper, because what that does is set out to everybody where we are and what we've tried to do, and there are no secrets. So if the opposition wants to get anything from the chief on this, we will just tell you exactly as it is. But I can promise you all, we have tried and tried and tried for a couple of 3 years on this latest idea of devolution, but it is thin gruel. So I will move it. Deborah, will you second the motion?
I'll second the motion, Leader.
Okay. Can we have a show of hands in favour, please? Thank you very much. That was the urgent item, and that brings the meeting to a close. So thank you very much, and see you in December.